I don't even know how to begin this, but I need to get it out of my system before I lose my mind completely. For the past 6 years, I've been in a relationship with a woman I truly believed was my soulmate, Sarah, my fiancée, and I got engaged about a year ago. Our wedding date is circled on the calendar, only 2 weeks away. I thought everything in my life was on track, that I was about to marry the love of my life. But what I witnessed last night makes me feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, about to throw myself into a mistake I'll never recover from. It started out as a normal evening. Sarah and I rarely get downtime together, so we decided to stay home, just relax. She was busy in the kitchen preparing dinner, and I was outside working on one of my projects. I own a bit of land, and in the backyard, I've been slowly putting together this small outdoor spot, a mix between a fire pit and a little pavilion. Something I imagined us using on chilly nights, maybe inviting friends over in the fall. I had been out there for hours, covered in dust and sweat, completely absorbed in my work. At some point, I got thirsty and headed back inside. As soon as I stepped into the house, I heard Sarah's voice from the kitchen. She was laughing softly, her phone on speaker. I paused, not wanting to interrupt right away, and that's when I recognized the other voice. It was Marty, my brother-in-law, married to Sarah's sister, Evelyn. He sounded frustrated. He asked Sarah if she knew where Evelyn was because he hadn't been able to reach her all evening. And then, without hesitation, Sarah said something that made my blood run cold. She was just here. She left a little while ago. She should be home in about 30 minutes. I froze in place. That statement shouldn't have made sense because Evelyn hadn't been at our house at all. The last time we saw her was the day before, when she came over to help Sarah with some wedding decorations, but she definitely hadn't been around that night. At first, my brain brushed it off. Maybe I misheard. Maybe Sarah was just covering for her sister for some innocent reason. I stepped into the kitchen, grabbed a glass, and asked casually, "What was that about?" Sarah turned to me like nothing was wrong and said, "Marty was looking for Evie." That's it. No explanation, just casual and dismissive. Then I noticed her phone in her hands. She was typing quickly, clearly sending a message. I asked, "Who are you texting?" Without looking up, she said, "I'm letting Evie know Marty's trying to reach her." That's when things started to click together in my head. First, I had just heard Sarah tell Marty that Evelyn had been at our place and was on her way home. That was a lie, and not a small one. Second, Marty had literally just said Evelyn wasn't answering him. So why would Sarah believe Evelyn would suddenly reply to her? Unless Sarah knew something Marty didn't. And finally, why promise Marty that his wife would be home in half an hour? That wasn't a vague guess. That sounded like Sarah either knew exactly where Evelyn was or was warning her right then to hurry back before her husband realized something was wrong. I went into the living room, sat down with my drink, and tried to calm myself. My hands were shaking, my mind began racing, trying to put the pieces together. The only conclusion that made sense was that Sarah was lying to protect Evelyn, covering up her whereabouts from her husband. And the more I thought about it, the more certain I became that Sarah wasn't just lying. She was actively involved in whatever Evelyn was hiding. Cover stories, excuses, warnings about when Marty was asking questions. Even crude discussions about Evelyn's affair partner, mocking Marty behind his back. The more I scrolled, the sicker I felt. Sarah wasn't just turning a blind eye. She was actively participating, enabling her sister to cheat on her husband of 5 years. And not only that, but Marty and Evelyn have a little girl together, 2 years old. A child who has no idea her family is being torn apart behind the scenes. I took screenshots of as much as I could stomach before I forced myself to put the phone back. I stumbled into my home office and sat in front of my computer, shaking. I didn't even know what to do. My life, the one I thought was perfect,
suddenly felt like it was collapsing. The only thing I could do was start writing everything down, just to stop myself from screaming. And the only thought running through my mind was this: I cannot marry Sarah. Not now, not ever.
When I finally put Sarah's phone back, I sat in the dark for what felt like forever. My thoughts were spinning in circles. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Not just that Evelyn was cheating, but that Sarah, the woman I trusted more than anyone, was helping her sister pull it off. I kept trying to imagine any scenario where this wasn't as bad as it looked. Maybe Sarah thought she was just being loyal to her sister. Maybe she didn't realize how deep it went. But then I remembered the way they joked in those texts, the way Sarah covered for Evelyn without hesitation. There was no way she didn't know. She knew everything, and she was fine with it. That was the part that crushed me the most. If Sarah was capable of lying so easily for Evelyn, then what stopped her from lying to me? I always thought of her as someone with integrity, someone who cared about honesty. But those texts showed me another side of her, a version of Sarah that was two-faced, willing to laugh at other people's pain just to protect her sister's secret. I sat at my desk with my head in my hands, wondering how the hell I could go through with a wedding when I couldn't even look at my fiancée the same way anymore. The truth is, the thought of walking down the aisle with her after reading those messages made me feel physically sick. But canceling the wedding wasn't simple. Our families had already poured tens of thousands of dollars into this. Venues booked, flights arranged, relatives flying in from across the world. In just 2 weeks, everyone would be showing up expecting a celebration. And me? I was sitting here realizing I had to pull the plug. The financial loss alone made me want to scream. But even worse was the humiliation. Everyone thinks Sarah and I are this perfect couple. People look up to us. What will they say when I tell them it's over and why? Part of me wanted to bury my head in the sand and just pretend I didn't know, to marry her anyway, to keep everything from falling apart. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. Every time I pictured her walking down the aisle in that white dress, all I could see was those messages. Her laughing at Marty, her helping Evelyn sneak around, her typing out lies like it was second nature. I didn't sleep at all that night. By the time the sun started rising, I was sitting in the shower with hot water pouring over me, still replaying it all in my head. I had to go to work, but there was no way I was going to get anything done. My nerves were shot, my stomach twisted into knots. I ended up leaving for the office early just to avoid Sarah. Driving there, I kept rehearsing conversations in my head. Should I confront her directly? Should I tell her I saw the messages? Or should I go to Marty first, since he's the one being betrayed? That's what made this whole thing so unbearable. It wasn't just about me. Evelyn wasn't only lying to her husband, she was lying to her little girl too. And Sarah, the woman I trusted more than anyone, was helping her sister pull it off. I couldn't ignore that. The first person I ended up calling was my brother. He lives overseas, but he's always been someone I could rely on. Breaking the news to him was brutal, especially because he'd already spent thousands arranging to fly his family out for the wedding. But instead of getting angry, he just supported me. He said something that stuck with me. You deal with liars every day at work. Of course you don't want to come home and live with one too. And he was right. My job revolves around investigating fraud and catching people in lies. I spend every day surrounded by deception. The one thing I wanted was for my home life to be safe from that. But now, even there, I couldn't escape it. That conversation gave me some clarity. I couldn't stay silent. If I did, Marty would keep living in the dark, raising his daughter while his wife laughed behind his back. I couldn't let that happen, not when I had proof. So I started making calls, rearranging things. I opened a new bank account. I started preparing for the fallout. And while I did that, one thought stayed at the front of my mind. The wedding isn't happening. I don't know what my future with Sarah looks like anymore, but I know I can't marry her.
The hardest part in all of this is deciding what to do with the truth. I've spent the last few days walking around in a haze, barely functioning, because I know too much and I can't unknow it. Every time I look at Sarah, I see the lies she's been telling. And every time I think about Marty, I feel sick, knowing he's living in a house built on betrayal. I keep asking myself, do I tell him? Do I sit down, look him in the eyes, and shatter his world? Or do I keep it to myself, break off the wedding quietly, and let him figure it out on his own? Part of me feels like it's not my place. Evelyn is his wife. Sarah is my fiancée. Technically, what they choose to do in their marriage isn't my business. But then I go back to the fact that they have a little girl, a 2-year-old who deserves better than a mother sneaking around and a father completely in the dark. And if I stay silent, I'm just as guilty as Sarah, enabling Evelyn's affair, letting it continue while Marty sacrifices everything for his family. What makes it worse is how normal everything seems on the surface. We had dinner with them just last week. Marty was laughing, talking about a promotion at work, while Evelyn smiled and nodded like nothing was wrong. Now that I know, every memory feels poisoned. I replay those evenings in my head and wonder how I didn't see it sooner. The screenshots I saved are still sitting on my computer. I haven't shared them with anyone, not even my brother, but just knowing I have them makes my chest tight. They're proof, undeniable proof of everything Evelyn's been doing. If I hand them over, it'll destroy their marriage. But if I don't, then what am I supposed to do with them? Pretend I never saw them? Pretend Sarah isn't complicit in all of it? The truth is, I don't even see Sarah the same way anymore. I've tried to talk myself into forgiving her, telling myself she was just being loyal to her sister. But loyalty without integrity is just deceit. She's been covering for Evelyn for months. If she can help her sister cheat on her husband, what's to stop her from doing the same to me one day? That's the question I can't get out of my head. I've also thought about the timing. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Do I cancel everything right now? Tell everyone immediately? Or do I wait until after, when at least the storm of planning has passed? Both options feel unbearable. Either I devastate everyone with the truth before the wedding, or I humiliate myself by pretending everything is fine until it's too late. The money is another nightmare. Between the venue, the catering, the flights, and all the deposits, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Some of it came from our own savings, but a lot came from our parents. How do I tell them that all of that is about to go to waste because my fiancé turned out to be a liar? At work, I can't focus. My mind keeps drifting back to the same spiral of thoughts. I see Marty's face in my head, smiling, trusting, completely unaware of what's happening. And I hate myself for knowing the truth and doing nothing. The worst part is that Sarah has no clue that I've seen her phone. She still acts like everything is fine, planning table settings, talking about wedding songs, texting her sister late into the night like nothing's changed. And every time she does, I feel like I'm suffocating. She lies so easily, so naturally, and I can't tell if she even realizes how wrong it is. Or maybe she does and she just doesn't care. I'm running out of time to decide what to do. The wedding invitations are already out. Guests are already booking hotels. Family members keep calling, excited, asking about little details. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here knowing the entire thing is built on a foundation of lies. I want to scream. I want to pack my bags and disappear. I want to shake Sarah until she admits how wrong this all is. But I can't. Not yet. So I sit here writing this, hoping that somehow putting it into words will help me figure out my next move. Because right now, the only thing I know for sure is this. If I go through with the wedding, I'll be living a lie from day one. And that's something I can't do.
The more I think about it, the more I realize there's no way back from this. Even if Sarah somehow begged for forgiveness, even if she swore she was only protecting her sister and nothing more, the damage is already done. I'll never look at her the same way again. When I first proposed to her, I thought I'd found the one person I could trust unconditionally. She was kind, reliable, someone who always had my back, or so I believed. But now, that image is shattered. Because the truth is, Sarah doesn't have a problem with lying. She doesn't have a problem with covering up betrayal. And once you see that in someone, you can't unsee it. The thought of standing at the altar with her, promising honesty and loyalty, feels like a joke now. Those words would mean nothing, not after what I know, and I refuse to start a marriage with someone I already doubt. What scares me most is how calm she seems. Sarah has no idea what I discovered, and she acts like nothing is wrong. She's busy finalizing seating charts, texting vendors, and sending her mom pictures of her dress. She's living in a bubble, completely unaware that I'm seconds away from tearing our entire life apart. And honestly, part of me envies her ignorance, because for the past few nights, I've been lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how to detonate this bomb without ruining everyone around me. If it were just me, I'd walk away today, pack a bag, cancel the wedding, and never look back. But there are so many people tangled in this: parents, friends, extended family, people who spent money and time believing in us. Canceling will break hearts, destroy plans, and waste thousands. Yet marrying her would destroy me. I also can't stop thinking about Marty. Every day that goes by, he's still in the dark, still building a life with a wife who's lying to him. The weight of that truth crushes me. I picture his little girl running into his arms when he comes home from work, and my chest tightens because I know what's waiting for him down the road if someone doesn't tell him. But then I imagine his face when I show him the screenshots: the disbelief, the anger, the heartbreak. He'll know that every late night at work Evelyn claimed was just another excuse to be with someone else, and he'll know Sarah helped hide it. That knowledge will tear his family apart. So, what do I do? Do I protect him by destroying him with the truth? Or do I protect his feelings by letting the lie continue? Every option feels like a trap. If I tell him, I ruin his life. If I don't, I betray myself. If I marry Sarah, I live in constant suspicion. If I leave her, I devastate two families. This morning, Sarah kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work. I forced a smile, but inside I felt nothing but cold distance. For the first time in 6 years, her touch didn't bring me comfort. It just reminded me of the secret between us, the one she doesn't even know I know. I've started to write out different versions of how this could go. One where I sit Sarah down, tell her I saw the text, and demand an explanation. One where I meet Marty privately and hand him the proof. One where I simply walk away, cancel the wedding, and give no reason beyond, I can't do this. But every version ends the same. I'm no longer with Sarah. There's no version of the future where I stay with someone who chose deceit over honesty. I wish I could go back in time and unknow what I saw, but I can't. The truth is in front of me, undeniable, and the clock is ticking. The wedding is coming fast, and the pressure is suffocating me. All I know is that whatever happens, I won't stand there on that altar pretending everything is fine. I'd rather endure the fallout, the anger, the humiliation. Anything is better than building a marriage on lies.
By the afternoon, I had made up my mind. I couldn't marry Sarah. No matter how much money was spent, no matter how many people were counting on the wedding, I couldn't step into a marriage built on lies. I tried to justify it in every way possible. Maybe she was just protecting her sister. Maybe she didn't realize how wrong it was. But deep down, I knew the truth. She had knowingly helped cover up an affair. I decided to talk to Marty first. He deserved to know, and I knew it would be better coming from someone who had evidence rather than leaving him to find out on his own. I packed a small folder with the screenshots and my notes and drove over to his place. My hands were shaking the entire way, but I forced myself to stay calm. When I arrived, he was sitting in his living room, his daughter playing quietly nearby. I could see the confusion on his face when I knocked on the door, but I didn't waste time with small talk. I handed him the folder and said, "You need to see this."
As he flipped through the screenshots, his expression shifted from disbelief to anger, and then a quiet kind of heartbreak that pierced me too. He leaned back and ran a hand over his face. I knew something was off, he said quietly, but I didn't think. He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. We spent the next couple of hours going over the evidence, talking through what had happened, and figuring out what his next step should be. I offered to help wherever I could, but made it clear that this was his decision to act on. I had done my part. After leaving Marty, I went home to face Sarah. It was surreal. The same house, the same walls, but now everything felt charged with tension. I told her flat out that the wedding was off. At first, she laughed, thinking I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, her face fell, and then the anger came. Words were exchanged, tears were shed, and accusations flew. I stayed calm as I could manage, because I had to. This wasn't about revenge, it wasn't about humiliation, it was about truth, about not stepping into a life built on deceit. The aftermath has been chaotic. Calls, messages, family members needing explanations, friends taking sides. I've had to cancel venues, flights, and reservations. The financial loss is significant, but it pales in comparison to the emotional cost of marrying someone I couldn't trust. Sarah and I are done. I don't know what the future holds for either of us, but one thing is certain. I can't marry a woman who lied so easily, so completely, without remorse. And even though part of me mourns what I thought we had, I also feel a sense of relief. A weight has been lifted, and finally, I can start thinking about rebuilding my life honestly. Marty is processing everything, and I'm doing my best to support him. We've decided to keep the information private until he's ready to confront Evelyn fully to give him a chance to handle it on his terms. As for me, I'm taking it one step at a time, canceling the wedding, setting boundaries with Sarah, and trying to regain a sense of normalcy. It won't be easy, but I know it's necessary. I've learned that some truths, no matter how painful, are better faced head on. This experience has been devastating, exhausting, and heartbreaking, but it's also taught me the value of integrity, the importance of honesty, and the courage it takes to walk away from a life that isn't right. I can't control Sarah's actions, but I can control my own, and I choose to act with honesty, even when it's painful, even when it's messy. The wedding is off. My trust in Sarah is gone, but my resolve to live truthfully is stronger than ever.